You're watching Election Digest with me, Giggles McFunk. My guest tonight probably does need an introduction. As the leader of the probable third place party, he's a man who may as well have no face. It's Nick Clegg. Good evening, Mr. Clegg.
Good evening, Giggles. And thank you for the underwhelming introduction.
Well, it is true that recent public surveys indicate that a large cross-section of the populace don't know your visage from Adam, but that's not why we're here. You've just released your party's manifesto. Several of your policies have come under fire for simply not being affordable. What would you say to this?
Well, you know, Giggles, it's not easy writing a manifesto. Just choosing a cover page took us several days.
Okay. Why do you think that is?
I'm glad you asked that, Giggles. We at the Lib Dems believe in democracy and openness, and giving everyone a say. So rather than employing professional communications specialists to create a well-designed front page, which I hasten to add the other political parties did, we ran a competition in our holiday newsletter, displayed all of them in the last newsletter, then held a costly party vote to decide. Using proportional representation, of course.
And people actually voted for the one you went with?
Well, unfortunately, our decision to put all of the best designs at the end of the list so that the bad ones got a chance too meant that the good designs were left off the end of the page when I was making the newsletter on Microsoft Works one night. So they weren't chosen.
Right. And did the most popular entry get a majority of votes?
Of course not, Giggles. With over 7 entries, people couldn't decide. And because we used proportional representation, some of the lesser entries formed a coalition cover page and won the vote.
Let's move on. Many critics have said that your tax policies are unworkable and that you haven't provided enough evidence about how you can possibly hope to afford them.
Well, we had to write the manifesto quite quickly, you know. I mean, having policies is important when you're in government or even leading the opposition. But we're not used to people wanting to read ours. We had hoped that no one would notice if we didn't do it.
Seriously?
Well, think about Paddy Ashdown, Charles Kennedy and Mingus. They were so inconsequential that no one even cared what they said. One of Charles's policies actually involved filling all the swimming pools near his house with famous grouse.
But you bucked the trend?
Yes. I mean, no. Well, we know that we aren't going to win the election. Only an idiot would think that voting for the Lib Dems will end up in us gaining nearly 300 seats. So we made a big list of things that we thought people would like.
Oh, isn't that just pandering to the voters, Mr. Clegg?
Look, Giggles. Since the Lib Dems formed, people have assumed that we're nothing but a bunch of middle-class pinker-lifties who spend too much time reading the editorials in The Guardian. But that just isn't the truth. Some of us read The Independent too.
And that has inspired your thinking?
Reading The Independent only taught me one thing. That not everyone is middle class. And when I realized that, I knew that we could reach out to voters by promising to give poor people more money. So we're increasing the income tax threshold to $10,000.
But how will you fund this? Or your generous education policy for that matter? And why are you clinging to scrapping tuition fees, when almost everyone agrees that they are so deeply entrenched in our fiscal system that they can't possibly be removed?
Didn't you read the manifesto? Page 2. We're scrapping ID cards. And Trident.
But surely those two things can't possibly raise enough money?
Together they're worth about $15 billion. That's a lot of money.
But your ideas do seem to have produced a funding gap of about $10 billion. And this is a time when people generally agree we should be cutting back on our spending.
I didn't say it was a good manifesto. We had to put it together quickly. Didn't I tell you the Charles Kennedy thing? And Mingus didn't even put anything after the contents page. Seriously, it's blank. 50 pages of plain A4. But we can save a lot of money by cutting Trident, you know.
Mr. Clegg, I realize that most people aren't fully versed in the reasons for maintaining an independent nuclear deterrent, but given that you'd have to put most of the money from Trident into our conventional forces to balance the capability gap, how much money are we really talking about?
Like I said, loads. Squillions and squillions. And that's not a number I've just plucked out of thin air.
Well, I'm afraid we are running out of time, Mr. Clegg. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to the electorate?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Giggles. On May the 6th, remember that the other parties don't offer you a new way. Nick Clegg does. We will halve classroom sizes, pay the armed forces a lot more money, tax the bankers until they all move to America and leave the city of London a desolate wasteland, and introduce electoral reform so that our party stands an outside chance of one day becoming the main opposition party. I'm not going to actually tell you how we'll do these things, or indeed explain how our ailing economy can possibly afford it. That's not the Nick Clegg way. But please vote for me. Because I'm one of you, the suffering ordinary people. Choose something different, choose reform, choose a strange attempt to double our education budget, choose to waste your vote, choose Lib Dem.
That's all for now. Join me next time on Election Digest with me, Giggles McFunk. Good night.